Welcome on, welcome all to the Tortillas and Takes podcast. You are on once again with your boy, I'll be sure. And the Red Raiders are 6-0, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time since 2013. And unlike 2013, it doesn't feel like a fluke. You're 6-0. We're beating up on teams we're supposed to. And it feels a lot more like '08, which was not flukish, than it does 2013, which, let's be all real, it was pretty flukish. So, and we found that out as the season went on. So to talk about this, the permanent teacher's back. All right. Shout out to Joe Lopez, who was filling in as the sub last week. But we got the main person. Everybody got to sit back in their seats because playtime is over. But he is still the people's champ. That is Jeremy Gillen. What's up, Jeremy?
Kind of stole my thunder there, Albie. I was going to get excited to talk about how this is much different than 2013. But hey, 6-0 and feeling great because we've played some good teams up to this point. And you guys talked about it well on the last podcast. But every team that we played in conference has brought something to the table, and we have addressed that and overcome it. This game obviously being a lot different than Houston and Utah, but I think this game illustrated even more where the ceiling of this team really is. Our team really is. So stoked to be 6-0.
Interesting. So you think this game really kind of showed that and to kind of bear the lead a little bit. Texas Tech was able to pull off the victory in homecoming. We won. We're 6-0. Won a really weird homecoming game. And we, these games, blackout games in the Jones, the students came with it, had the face paint, the Joker face paint on. Going into the game, Jeremy, I remember there was a lot of big pull from Twitter, like, oh man, y'all got to recreate this. You got to recreate the Joker faces. And I was actually of the opinion, and I mentioned this in the pod, but I was of the opinion that, like, you don't have to. You know what I mean? Like, that was very '08. Dark Knight, greatest comic book movie of all time. Dark Knight did just come out. You know what I mean? Like, it was relevant. Like, now you just put on Joker face, just put a Joker face, not as relevant, right? And so, like, I was almost of the opinion of let the kids have new traditions. Then I saw it, and I was like, never mind. Like the uniforms, maybe we need to go back to the past and kind of, show out with the Joker because they looked great. Students were out there, packed house an hour before the game from the student section. Absolutely incredible. And that, I think, explained the craziness and the weirdness that was the rest of the game. I'm not even talking about on the field, well, the gameplay on the field. I'm talking about everything surrounding the oddities that was the Jones, which, let's be real, it's not a real Jones AT&T game if there's not oddities around.
But just speaking on the atmosphere, a game that I really wished I could have gone to. Tickets were astronomical. And really for no reason other than we were top 10. I don't think Kansas demands that level of ticket price. It was more for the atmosphere. And credit to Texas Tech, whatever admin to say, like whatever flow chart that goes down to like, hey, what are we going to be doing in the stadium? How are we going to, okay, timeouts, we play this, like we're going to do this on media, whatever. And then, hey, when it's third to fourth quarter, guess what? We're just going to do an absolute Circus du Soleil drone show, blasting up all of the, an insane atmosphere. Everybody I knew who went was like, this was the best Texas Tech game I've ever been to. And I've seen some really good Twitter posts about, this is what happens when you give rednecks $1 billion. And I couldn't disagree more. It was just an absolute fireworks show. We're just hammer drunk at the front of a Led Zeppelin concert. It was fun, man. It was a fun environment for our students. They're living in the golden age.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, they're probably never doing that fireworks show between quarters ever again.
I mean, awesome. Totally the wrong move for game experience.
In hindsight, they were like, ooh.
I thought this was going to blow away a lot faster.
They got into the fourth quarter and they're like, I feel like we made a mistake here. If only we had done this for UAPB, nobody would have cared. So yeah, the drone show was amazing. I saw some of the videos of it. It looked great. But yeah, and I was funny enough, I was watching the game at a bar. We were at, if you do live in West Houston, go to Boomer Jacks. That's where Texas Tech West Houston's meeting up at. So I was out there watching the game. We looked away, we were talking, we looked back and we're like, what the hell happened here? It's just, was there a bomb set off in Lubbock or what's going on here? It's just complete, would look like mayhem, looked like just, and we were like, is it fog that just randomly shot in? And then come to find out it's a fireworks show. I mean, you would think that'd be the biggest complaint that Kansas head coach Lance Leipold had. Instead, or the fact that his team got whooped in the second half. Instead, it was a lot of all the other theatrics. So before we get into the game plan, I kind of want to talk a little bit about the theatrics. So one of them being, because that's what everyone is kind of talking about after the fact, which is that, of course, the tortilla ban finally came into effect this game. Texas Tech was hit with 2 separate 15-yard penalties during this game because of tortillas on the field. And we were very pissed about it in the offseason when it came. In true Texas Tech fashion, we were defiant. We were like, screw you. We're going to keep throwing these tortillas. We got 2 15-yard penalties. Also, apparently what was found on the field was a pocket knife that confirmed, like, I haven't really tweeted too much about it, because Jeremy, you and I both know that it was, even ahead of time, we knew it was kind of confirmed already, that a pocket knife was actually found. Now, nobody saw it thrown. Nobody actually saw, hey, there's no video of it being thrown. They don't know how it happened or whatever. Lance Leipold did say it hit one of his staffers, and he's confirmed that a pocket knife was found by Texas Tech security on the field, right? And it's something that admin's taken very seriously. Obviously, we don't want to have that happen. And I will say, Jeremy, unlike the batteries and some of the other insane things we've been, or what was it, the frozen ice bottles in the middle of August. Like, unlike some of the more ridiculous notions, pocket knife is plausible. That's one of the reasons why I never really said anything. Because I'm like, Because the thing about it is, if you're throwing something like food, for example, food's a very common one you see in a lot of games, right? All the other ones had to be premeditated. Like, if I'm going to throw a battery, I would have had to wake up this Saturday, put batteries in my pocket to potentially throw. Right? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Which is already weird to begin with.
Which is weird. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Like a water bottle. I have to decide, I'm going to freeze this water bottle. And instead of drinking it, I'm going to chuck it. And in August, September, Lubbock heat, it's not going to melt. None of that makes sense. Right? Pocket knife from a West Texan? Yeah, it kind of makes sense. And one of Mike Vernon, I think his first name's Mike. He's one of the Kansas reporters. I know everybody likes to come down on opposing people reporters when they say these things. I actually give him props to it, because it doesn't seem like he wasn't really accusatory when he was talking about it. Like, oh, Texas Tech fans, how dare you? You're the worst. He made a statement. A lot of Tech fans came down his neck about it. He was like, well, y'all kind of crazy, but okay. But he was just being a journalist. And he had a joke, which I found funny, because he was like, somebody's going to his home, is going to reach in his pocket and pull out a tortilla.
That was funny. I saw that.
Yeah, and I was like, you joke, but maybe. I can see it. I can see somebody be like, yeah, tortillas. Huh. Uh-oh. Right? And so, like, this is one that I'm like, was it malicious? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it was somebody accidentally threw the pocket knife out. Maybe it was somebody who was on the field that accidentally put in his pocket and pulled it out. We don't know. But it does accentuate the whole bad Texas Tech thing. And I've seen 2 narratives from Tech fans on this. One being, so Tech fans first went to, he's lying. Then went to, or into he's lying. Now we're kind of at the phase of like, it's not that big of a deal. Right? Or it's an accident. He's lying. It's not that big of a deal. It's an accident. And I've seen 2 iterations of it. The main camp is, it's not that big of a deal. I guess the main camp is it's like, it's a pocket knife. It didn't hit it. It wasn't thrown. It might have come from a staffer, or it's kind of on the denial piece, and it's not that big of a deal. There's another aspect of it, though I've seen from a lot of Tech fans. That's like, all right, time to, excuse my language, but time to cut the shit. It's time to stop all this, Tech nonsense. We are now being considered a top football program and a top athletics program in the country. All right, we have a top, Jeremy, if we want to think about this, Texas Tech has a top 10 football team, top 10 basketball team, top 10 soccer team, unless you ask the stupid preview committee or whatever, but a top 10 soccer team, top 10 track program, a golf team that has top 10 softball, a golf team that is producing has produced one of the greatest golfers in the country or in the world right now, a tennis program of men and women that routinely make the NCAA tournament, a baseball and women's basketball program that has, even though they're not really doing great right now, at least have a wealth of history, and a volleyball program that exists. So with that being said, the athletics department at Texas Tech is on the up. Like, we're actually should be revered and looked at as one of the top athletics programs in the country. But so as fans, we kind of, the one sentiment is, as fans, act like you've been there before. Now it's time for us to stop being the rowdy little sibling that just wants to FSU. Maybe it's now time for us to be a little classier. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on just the whole knife gate, and then also this sentiment of, whether it's not a big deal and we are who we are, or is it time for us to step up as a fan base?
So I understand both the response that Tech fans had immediately, as well as kind of how Kansas fans have approached it. Because for Tech fans, right, we've been at the butt end of like ridiculous accusations. And so for somebody to come out and say, oh, they threw something else at us, and not have, and I understand the call for like, hey, well, if I get somebody chunks a knife at me, I'm taking a picture of it. I'm showing somebody, right? The fact that there hasn't been any of that definitely, like, the response for Tech fans, I understand, of like, hey, you're obviously BSing me. You're just sad you lost. And credit to most Kansas fans I've seen, they're like, okay, Tech fans suck, but I'm more concerned that Lance Leipold spent so much conversation about that and not about how he got wrecked in the second quarter. Like, they're more upset with Coach Leipold, because it's like, hey, we got 17 points in the second quarter. What happened third and fourth? I get that. I will say, with the developments that have like come out, so with Tech PD and with the athletic department, like responding to Big 12 inquiry, this thing's got legs. Like, there's and there should be some accountability, right? So putting it in their hands and letting them like solve this on their own, great, good, wonderful. And whoever did throw it, if it indeed was a Texas Tech, it was just whatever fan did it, punishment for sure. Like, because that's assault. That's a hard. Now, let's not put it past anybody. They could have done the old 1980s drug drop. Kansas coach pulls out a pocket knife and just drops and goes, ow, my head. But, in all seriousness, like, that kind of stuff that's not for any fan base, top dog or bottom feeder. So I think that stuff got to cut it out. When it comes to now, we seeing some Texas Tech fans going, hey, we just need to stop throwing tortillas, because that's going to get us in trouble. Look, I am firmly on the side of like traditions should reign in terms of college football. Because like when you take all this stuff away, you just kind of sterilize your program, and then you become the holier than thou. We don't do that kind of stuff. Texas Tech has existed most of its time as just like that upset team of like, man, we've got high aspirations, but likely we're middle of the pack, sometimes above. And so, but this tortilla thing is what has been remained, is like, this is what people love when they watch Texas Tech. They're like, here comes the tortillas. Everyone's excited to talk about the tortillas. So if we can just wrangle in, and I've seen some really good suggestion, but if we can just wrangle in, like, okay, the first kickoff, you can throw it down there, because we've got a system set up where, hey, the tortillas are going to go to the pig farm, blah, blah, blah. After that, if you want to throw a tortilla, hey, throw it straight up. You're going to piss everybody off around you, but you're not going to penalize the team. Like, I think that there are ways that you can maintain this like quirky and fun tradition without it being some kind of detriment to the team as a whole, but if they got rid of it, if they said, hey, no more at all, then I'm okay with that too. Like, for me, I want what is going to put our team in the most successful position. So if we can't do the tortillas because there's some jackasses out there, fine. That's they made it about them, like Joey said. So they made it about them, and now we all suffer.
Yeah, contrary to people's belief, like, we didn't throw tortillas when I was at Tech. For about like a good, 15 years, 20 years, there was no tortilla throwing. like in the 2000s and I think in the 90s. There was not a lot of like tortilla throwing. It really didn't make a comeback in the 2010s. You know, I don't know if it was maybe that comeback started maybe towards the end of your tenure, but like up, you know, 08 to 2013, there was no like tortilla throwing, all right? And so so it's but I will say I do think the whole Big 12 thing about it is kind of ridiculous because I don't know, maybe there's the start of a slippery slope like a pocket knife or whatever, and also the Leipold is not a great messenger because especially finding out that he was one of the main people in the offseason that was like, oh, this got it has to end. This tortilla thing has to end, and it just seems such a harmless thing that as the Big 12 and all the other ADs, you are really driving forward. Like, who cares? You know what's Oklahoma State has that stupid paddle thing. Like that thing is way more annoying than hell. If you want to take away a tradition, take away the saddle tramps, little cowbells. I hate hearing it on TVs. Take away one of our. If they took away that, everybody would be like, "Oh no."
Oh.
Anyways, yeah, exactly. But I think it's pretty harmless, and it's kind of being demonized a little bit. And for the most part, most people when they throw the tortillas are throwing it up, right?
Yeah.
It's just the aerodynamics of it goes forward. But you know, it is what it is. I think everybody's in agreement. You don't throw pocket knives or anything like that. But I do think this whole NCAA thing, I think one of the biggest reasons why we got the 2 15-yard penalties in the first place was because of Lance Leipold and potentially talking about it ahead of time, getting some of that advantage there. And I'm not really worried about it in Kansas, but there has been conversations of, well, how do you police it, right? And Kansas is not a problem, but whenever we do play a school that comes to Tech that might be a problem, a Baylor, a TCU, an Oklahoma State, whenever they're good again, where that could affect us, like how are you going to police it, right? And so a lot of questions to be had there. So moving on, let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the game itself, right? So Texas Tech in this game, really as the craziness of this game really got underway, it looked like another Texas Tech beatdown. Shout out to Cam Dickey. One play, one touchdown, 71 yards to the house. Cam Dickey, man, woo! He is looking incredible these last few weeks. And his speed in the offseason is just it's been crazy. And so he just is able to run away from every safety, every corner. He has the home run hitting power. And all of a sudden, you go from a guy that couldn't make the appropriate block last year in his first couple of games to a guy that is a home run hitter. He started the season as a third string running back. And now you're looking at him and like, man, he has it all. So the juke movie in the second half was crazy as well, like just as crazy as a 71-yard touchdown run. So he gets it there. The very next play, we get a fumble that David Bailey gets back, and just like that, another touchdown. And then after that, a 3-and-out, and then a field goal. And Jeremy, it's 18-0 at the end of the first quarter, and we're boogieing, right? Everybody, it's a grand old time. Texas Tech's about to win 80-0, and we're playing amazing.
Oh, next level. Not even, I mean, at that point I thought, okay, Kansas is going to mail it in. Like it's over. Because they could do no right. They tried to switch it up, take Jalen Daniels out, put Ballard in. He fumbles. We get it. We take it to the house. You know, the only miss was that we had to take a field goal. Had a little bit of red zone issue there. But also going for two. Because we're like, you know what? Let's try. Well, let's try the swing gate thing out. Let's just do it with, Terrence Carter Miller. And it worked. Great. So it was felt like, you're playing like classic Kansas football where you can kind of just go through the depth of your playbook and just kind of figure out, how you want to, you can just, whatever you do is going to work. Right. Definitely the Texas Tech game started the way I absolutely wanted it to. Not giving Kansas any kind of momentum, not giving them an opportunity, as close as there was that one drive where they kind of started to make way down the field. But then, once like a sack or 2 sacks later, they're back out of field goal range. And it's like, that's right, baby. That's what we do. So first quarter, classic football from this season.
Yeah. And I will say, so you mentioned about that red zone issue. equaling a field goal. The very next drive, same thing happens, right? And it does seem like with this offense, very easy to get down the field. Red zone's tough. And I saw some people kind of mention the fact that what annoys me about Leftwich sometimes is that he gets to the red zone and he switches up. Here's the thing. You kind of have to. You cannot operate in the red zone the same way you operate everywhere else in the field, right? You just don't have as much space, right? Even if something as simple as an inside zone read in the red zone, it's bunched up, right? You don't have the ability to space things out, right? You can go into a veer and try to get your receivers out a little bit more and get the corners out a little bit more, and maybe that'll work. But it's just not as easy to do so. And then what happens when your run game is boxed on, right? Well, then when your run game is stacked, now you're like, okay, well, what about passing? Well, you can't go vertically. You can only go horizontal, right? So it's red zone is not easy. It's very tough and difficult to really talk through and think through and all that other jazz. So,
well, the red zone favors the defense, and everybody thinks it's the other way around. But like as soon as you get in that 20-yard range, like I said, safeties don't have to be as far off. The DBs don't have to be as far off. Like there's not a lot of time for a play to develop because it's like you think, oh, 20 yards, that's enough for any kind of. It really isn't. Like as soon as the ball is snapped, that space between defensive back and receiver is minimal, and everything just it has to look different. So it always favors the defense. So if you're listening to this and you think, man, if you can't score in the red zone, you suck. Remember that red zone always favors the defense.
Which is why certain packages work so well once you got them. And we were talking about it in the chat, like the patented Cumbie quarterback Donovan Smith package. Oh, it was awesome. The red zone, it was able. You had a big, strong, physical quarterback, and you were able to use him to get touchdowns. It worked great. Last year, right, using the patented Kitley tight end red zone package. That was Jalen Conyers was great with it, right? He it almost never failed in the red zone or on fourth downs or something like that, right? And so Leftwich, great play call. I have no questions about Leftwich as a play call. I think he's been incredible. Red zone's a little tougher, and then that it is what it is there, and I am confident they'll figure that out a little bit. So here's what I'll say, Mr. Gillen. So after that, one thing that did happen is prior to that second field goal, Baron Morton was sacked, Baron Morton was hit, and Baron Morton was dragged down. What is patently known as the hip drop tackle. It's where a defender gets a hold of the offensive player and just sinks his hip directly down, right? Takes his leg from under him and just drags him down, usually on the side like that. That tackle is a very dangerous tackle. I would argue it's just as dangerous as when the quarterback plants his foot for the pass and there's a helmet that goes right to his knees. It's very
just the worst to watch.
Right, yeah. Very dangerous tackle. If you're a Texans fan, you saw Joe Mixon last year, which had the best 3 games ever. And he suffered a hip drop tackle, and he hasn't been healthy since, right? And so it's a tackle that people have been fighting to get out of the game in general. It's still technically a legal tackle in both the NFL and college football. NFL it's supposed to be illegal, but nobody calling it. So anyways, really bad call, really bad tackle. It stinks. And so that's what happened to Baron Morton. He comes out, and Jeremy, some people celebrate. Some people are like, man, hey, Wheels Hammond, baby. We're coming back. Wheels Hammond. And Wheels Hammond struggles. He struggles. I mean, just the fact of the matter is he struggles. We suffer. One, I think that field goal, it did lead to the first positive drive for Kansas all game. Right after that, Jalen Daniels started carving us up a little bit. The Kansas was able to kind of go down the field and score a touchdown. No big deal, 21-7. But then we suffer a 3-and-out, right? A 3-and-out where we kind of load the box, expecting the box is loaded, expecting both Jacoby Williams and Will Hammond to be the ones to run the ball. 2 inaccurate passes to Terrence Carter, and we get a 3-and-out. And then once we get the ball back, Will Hammond, a really bad interception over the middle to Taylor Davis. And with that incredible field position, once again, we get carved up. Kansas goes all the way down, scores a nice touchdown overgrown. It's 21-14. Okay. Then right after that, offense again struggles. We end up having to punt the ball back with 40 seconds to go, or 30 seconds to go, and they get down to the field goal range. And just like that, Jeremy, it goes from 21-0 to 21-17. It's halftime, and you're like, ooh, what the helly, as the children would say. What the heliante?
Oh my God.
What the hell?
And What the Halle Berry? What was the
What the
yardage
Halle
on
Berry?
that kick that kid had? 55?
Oh, 55. Yeah.
Whenever he lined up for that, I said in my mind, I was like, if he makes this, we are in for a hell of a second half. Because we just fell apart. We fell apart. And, offensively, that makes sense to me. Defensively, I was like, dude, Jalen Daniels has hit like a different, like he's hit that mode of like, I got to make this happen. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And that's the most dangerous Jalen Daniels there is, right? And so for me, I was like, dude, they hit this field goal. They're going in there with all the momentum, and we're cooked. The crowd is already out of it. They're like, hey, this is not as fun as it was, 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. Like, we're not having fun anymore. And just the game that was over in the first quarter, even though there's no such thing, but like a game that was feasibly over in the first quarter, redefined by was saying it's an ankle injury or a knee injury. Do we know yet?
I think it was knee. I think it was knee.
So redefined by a small knee injury and a little bit of juice. And yeah, at the half, I was actually most disappointed in the defense and the way that it felt like almost that they had switched up their coverage, or they had played a lot more off of the receivers. And that just gave Daniels so much more time. Also, their offensive line hit like in that second quarter after they just played a lot more aggressively. And it felt like they were keeping us from getting any realistic pass rush. And for me, I was like, oh, dude, if we're not making it home on the pass rush against Jalen Daniels, he's got all the time in the world. No wonder we're getting cooked.
Well, I'll say this: one of the greatest compliments I can give to our two new coordinators, Mac Leftwich and Shill Wood, is in the first few years we've had Joey McGuire, his coaching staff has not been great at halftime adjustments. They just have not been good. This is maybe the third game in a row, depending on how you feel about the need to make a halftime adjustment in the Houston game. But definitely the second game this year, Utah and this game against Kansas, where I'm like, man, the halftime adjustment for both offensively and defensively was great. I expected it for offense. Mac Leftwich, now that you come in with a game plan for Baron Morton, but you cannot necessarily run the same game plan for Will Hammond. Will Hammond is a little bit better in space, right? It's not necessarily when you're doing a read option with Baron Morton, you're going to kind of stay between the tackles a little bit more. Read option Will Hammond, you want to get him out, right? When it comes to RPOs, also are different when it comes to Baron Morton versus Will Hammond, and just the drop back passes or the shotgun passes are different with Will Hammond and versus Baron Morton. So the way you go towards it, and it's going to be hard to completely change how you're doing things when you just input them right there at the end of the second quarter, right? So, so there was that. So I expected Mac Leftwich to come with a different game plan with Will Hammond, similar to how he did it against Utah. Shill Wood, buddy, you saw them get 17 points and said not again. Let me give you the second half drives for Kansas. 4 plays punt, 3 plays punt, 6 plays punt, 7 plays punt, 5 plays punt, and then a turnover on downs to end the game. That was the second half of Kansas. The D-line just 9 sacks, a school record 9 sacks in the game. Both Romello Height and David Bailey. David Bailey's already gotten a lot of calls this year, and I actually put out a tweet saying that I think he's the best pass rusher in the country. I think David Bailey is legitimately the best pass rusher in the country.
Yes.
Does it week in, week out. He can't be stopped. Doesn't matter who you are. David Bailey, I think, is the best pass rusher in the country. This game was Romello Height saying, "Hold on now, I'm really good too." So Romello Height, I mean, and mind you, now Kansas isn't the greatest O-line in the world. They're in Houston. They got some talent on that O-line, and these guys made mincemeat of them. And so just absolutely, and just with that, they weren't able to get anything going, and it really affected Daniel's time in the pocket. He started getting nervous, getting anxiety, making bad throws down the field, and just hitting him, smacking him a few more times really helped. I saw a couple Kansas fans that were really upset as far as some of the decisions that were made by the coaching staff, the offensive coaching staff. And I looked at some of the plays they talked about, and I'm like, a lot of it is just, guys, you you can't F with us, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of it is just simply you can't F with us. There was one play, Jalen Daniels came off of a play action read, a play action on 3rd and 1, and Bailey got the sack, and they're like, "Oh man, why would you call that?" And I'm like, "Actually,
It was a great play.
Pretty good call. Right before the game, the drive a couple times before you had a 3rd and 1, and you try to run it, and we blew it up in the middle. Right? This time you do a play action, and guess what? If your right tackle blocks Bailey, it's a completion. He didn't. Mm-hmm. He didn't. The play wasn't the problem. He didn't. Right? Even that first play that where he was blown up in the middle, you had a pulling guard and a pulling tackle over the side to get additional blockers going to the right hand side. Right? If those blockers are able to cut appropriately enough and get there, well, now you have an advantage. You have more people blocking than where you're going. Problem is, we were so quick off the ball, it didn't matter, right? Lee Hunter was so fast off the ball, it blew up your ability to get those pulling guard and the pulling tackle over there. So he blew it up, right? And just got in there and got in that face. You couldn't even do anything there, right? And so it's like the play call isn't the problem. You weren't able to execute, and you weren't able to execute because we that good.
That's right.
Right? Both of those plays work against probably every other Big 12 team.
Yeah.
But sorry, you ain't playing every other Big 12 team.
That's right. And it's kind of illustrating a larger point that Kansas is still a really good offensive team. They're showing up in all the right places in the metrics. And what we'll see likely is that when they play all the other Big 12 teams, they're going to remain a really good offense. Because what if Houston, Utah both have
Utah been killing everybody. They've been killing everybody.
That's right. And so it's like both can be true. Utah can be good, and they can also get boat raced by Texas Tech because Texas Tech is just that good right now. And it's like people have a hard time wrestling with that.
Yeah. On the side of the ball on offense, Will Hammond became Will's Hammond again. Really, that touchdown run that he had, 20 yards over to the house, again, getting him out in open space, opened up the entire game for him. Right. Yeah. Really, actually, even before that touchdown run, he was already getting silly with it. Right. That nice little pass to Cam Dickey. He already had a 14-yard run right before that. Right. He got him open, more free, and it opens up the game for him overall. And again, that's that adjustment made by Mac Leftwich. And in the second half, he actually had 2 touchdown drives. I'm gonna give him credit for, and then one that's just Cam Dickey again. Right. Cam Dickey, 55 yards to the house. Cam Dickey, 5th most rushing yards in Texas Tech history. Really, I was talking about it in one of my group chats. I'm like, man, let's even get the record. Let's even get past Hansford. All right, he had 30 more yards to go. He would have been able to pass up Hansford. But no, Cam Dickey was absolutely incredible. Will Hammond really had a good second half, even despite his struggles at the end there in the second quarter. And overall, I think the only other piece is SGH had a pretty bad injury. He was walking in a boot. They had a pretty bad injury in the first quarter. He was walking in a boot for the rest of the game. He's questionable for the next game. My guess is he probably doesn't play. It seemed like a bigger injury. But I think the good news is that it's not a long-term injury, right? He's questionable. Even him being questionable within a week is, I think, a win.
A huge win.
Baron Morton was just walking around in street clothes. He was chilling. I'm pretty confident we'll see him play that Arizona State game. How healthy he will be a question mark, but I think we'll see him play. SGH at least a little more questionable. I expect both of them to show up as questionable on the injury report as we go through this. Stats from this game. Offensively, Baron Morton, 91 yards and a touchdown. Will Hammond, 42 yards as well. Cam Dickey, like I mentioned, 21 carries, 263 yards and 2 touchdowns. Will Hammond, 8 carries, 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jacoby Williams, 9 carries, 48 yards. CD, Caleb Douglas, 6 catches, 55 yards. Reggie Virgil, 2 catches, 34 yards. Terrence Carter, 3 catches, 28 yards and a touchdown. Defensively, David Bailey with a fumble recovery. Jacob Rodriguez, 14 tackles and a sack. John Curry, 7 tackles. Ben Roberts, 6 tackles. And what's funny about Ben Roberts is that he was getting picked on a little bit in the second quarter. He also made an adjustment himself. Right, got picked on a little bit in the second quarter. Crone was able to kind of get the better of him in a few times, and he himself played a lot better in that second half as well. Like I mentioned, David Bailey, 3 sacks in the game. Romello Height, 2 sacks in the game. AJ Holmes coming in for the injured SGH, 2 sacks, 2.5 with an additional half tackle for loss there. overall. So just a really good game here by this team. And then on the Kansas side, Jalen Daniels still 228 yards and 2 touchdowns. Bowden Growing 76 yards and a touchdown in this game. Sean Williams with 10 yards and a touchdown for receiving. Daniel Highshaw 8 carries, 53 yards. Didn't really do much in the second half. Just kind of just there. LaShawn Williams didn't do anything. He didn't do a dang thing. We talked about him in the preview pod, and he didn't do anything. And so, but yeah, no, great work here in a scenario where you have most sacks in team history and 5th most rushing yards in individual rushing yards in team history. Good game.
It's a good game. Dominant football. That's old school dominant football, man. Yeah, great game.
So, Mr. Gillen, who's your offensive player of the game?
Cameron Dickey. Cameron Dickey, this game showed so much talent, like his just breadth of talent, the ability to accelerate, the ability to hit the hole, the ability to go through guys, the ability to juke. We were just missing a spin move. But outside of that, any day you pay up 263 yards, any day you have over 10 yards average, that's a good day for a running back.
Yeah, I think Cam Dickey's the obvious answer. I'm also going to give a bit of a shout out, and I was trying to think of who to give it to. So I'm going to give it to Davion Carter. So Davion Carter, and I was going to really looking at the interior line. I think the interior line had a really great game. Sheridan Wilson, Davion Carter, Will Jaddo, they all had a really good game. We saw Vinny Scurry and Cash Cleveland come in a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. But Davion Carter has had a great year, an absolute great year. We haven't really, at the guard position, remember Carter wasn't supposed to start. He was not supposed to start this year. He played quite a bit last year, right? But it was supposed to be like, we got Cash Cleveland coming. We got Will Jaddo coming. We may not even need Davion Carter. And Davion Carter has just worked, right? And he's had a great season. I respect the fact that his first name is Davion, and he does not look like a Davion. But he's played really well, and a lot of, I believe, if you watch the tape, his blocking on the interior propelled Dickey on both of his touchdown runs. So shout out to Davion Carter in the way he's playing this year and in this game as well. Defensively, Jeremy, who you got?
AJ Holmes for stepping up with Skylar Garrett-Howard going out. Obviously, that's a huge loss on the defensive line. That really sucked to see. But AJ Holmes, plug and play. Like it was no problem after that. And then ended up getting a couple of really big sacks on Jalen Daniels. And it's just like, hey, in the same way that we talked about Bryce Pollock stepping up for Amir Boyd when Amir Boyd was on this little disciplinary suspension. When your number's called, you got to shine. And so I think AJ Holmes did a really good job doing that.
And I'm gonna give him the other one, Romello Height. Boy, Romello Height, welcome to the show. And Romello Height, welcome to being on draft boards. Because starting today, you will be on draft boards. You will not only be on draft boards, you might even be on some day 2 draft boards. Romello, because I'll tell you this, David Bailey, as great as he is and his quickness, he needs to get a little bit bigger, right? I think he'll still be probably a first-round pick, but it gotta get bigger. Romello Height, he got the size, buddy. He's got the size. He's got the build. He's got what it takes. And so now let's start building some of those accolades. So we might have a scenario. I put out the tweet about the best pass rush in the country. Everybody else is like, well, which one are you talking about? And that's the best. That's the best compliment that Romello Height can possibly get. So that's definitely my defensive player of the game here overall. So Jeremy, before we get up out of here, time to look at the Big 12. Right, let's look at the Big 12. Let's open up the lounge and see who's in this lounge. Texas Tech overall. Is we talked about them a couple weeks ago now in the national championship contenders VIP area. And they kick their feet up. They are kicking their feet up in the VIP area right now. They look good, right? Ranked very high, seventh in the country right now. We're sitting pretty. We're sitting pretty. We are favored for every single game for the rest of this year. But there are 3 games that I still have a little bit of a, let's see what happens. First one coming up next week at Arizona State. A big question is whether or not Sam Levitt will be playing and be healthy. That's huge. I'm not worried. Yeah. This game doesn't worry me if Sam Levitt doesn't play. If he doesn't play, I'm like, okay, well, cool. We'll be 7-0. If he does play, then it's okay. Let's see what's up. So that's going to start out this week. And that Arizona State team did play at Utah and they got smacked because Sam Levitt left in the first quarter. And it was just as simple as that. This game had a lot of hype coming into it, and the second Sam Levitt went out, everybody in the stadium was like, all right, well, Utah's winning this one. And Utah was like, yeah, we'll bash real quick. And it wasn't even a question.
No, I made a comment at the beginning of the season that, this offense runs through Sam Levitt. Now they don't have Cam Scadaboo. It's all through Levitt and what Levitt wants to do. If you have a person like that and they stay healthy all season, great, good, wonderful. But as soon as they go down and you don't have a backup plan, Arizona State, you see what happens. And Utah, good on Utah for saying, you know what, I don't care what those Red Raiders did to me. I'm still good at this game. And showing up, Devin Dampier, having a good day too.
Yeah, Jeff Sims, the backup quarterback for Arizona State, he did what I expected him to do, which is, all right, I'm going to run this ball. If I have to throw, I'm throwing to Jordan Tyson. And I get it. Absolutely. That's it. But that's just not a winning formula for this team. And so they got whooped 42-10. And so, again, if Jeff Sims is the starting quarterback this week in Tempe, God bless him, because it's going to be a rough going for him. If Sam Levitt's out there, then Sam Levitt, this is a game where Sam Levitt might say, all right, NFL scouts, watch me work. Right? And so that's when it can be pretty enticing. The other game that I'm a little bit concerned of, and I know everybody wrote off K-State early on, but at K-State still won this little worrisome. It's in Manhattan for Texas Tech. They're going to be a tough team. And though we kicked them out of the lounge a while ago, they played home game against TCU, a TCU team that we just let in the lounge. The Horned Frogs, y'all just got up in here, and you're already embarrassing us, right? Get out. Get out. Right? K-State, big win at home against TCU. And Jeremy, for the first game, I would say all year, it all came together for the Wildcats. They actually looked like the team we thought they would be from the very beginning.
Yeah, I don't know what else you can say. This was a game that just kind of surpassed expectations for Kansas State fans. I know that there was we're at home, let's go out and try to win this. But, coming into it, TCU had – clearly, I can't remember the line, but TCU certainly had the advantage in this one. And, fell flat. They fell flat immediately. Now, as soon as I think – it took them both kind of a little bit to get going. But as soon as Kansas State found that groove and they kind of found this winning formula against the TCU defense, they put their foot on it. They were like, all right, well, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to go. And so, while I do think that this is worrisome for future games – it also could be somewhat of a dead cat bounce. I think there's some element of when you're a good team, you're bound to have good games. I would like to see if this is sustained over the next couple of the rest of the season, because they've been more inconsistent than not. So one good game does not a good team make. So we'll see. I think if Kansas State wants to be have a good they're a couple games away from bowl eligibility now. That was kind of a realization of I hope we just become bowl eligible just a couple of weeks in. So guys, make it happen, right? Just not against Texas Tech.
Yeah. So, and so the other game that I'm a little worried about left on Texas Tech's schedule is that home game against BYU, who right now BYU has looked like the second best team in the Big 12 for a little bit, right? Iowa State had that. Utah used to have that moniker, but then they lost to Tech. Then Iowa State had it for a while, but they lost last week. I think BYU had a firm grasp on we are the second best team in the Big 12. But hold on now. A road game at Arizona, and Arizona took them to double overtime, right? In a game where Noah Fida threw the ball, I think, a little too much, right? But it was a game where he's like, all right, let's see how good Bear Bachmeier is, and we were reminded that he's just not there yet.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
Other than his, second overtime touchdown run.
I'm not true. I am not down and out on the Wildcats. I think that they're having a much better season this year. I think that things are starting to click for them with some transfer pieces that they brought in, and BYU certainly stepping into this game felt kind of that rush, that surge. And what was really interesting about this game is that, to me, it felt very much like our game. That BYU came out hot and heavy, and then when Arizona was responding and responded really big in the second quarter, BYU did not have an immediate answer. And it took them a long time to really kind of readjust the way their offense was running whenever Arizona switched up their defense. And so, Arizona, a better team than people expect. BYU definitely has vulnerabilities. And like you said, it does come in the form of Bear Bachmeier, that there's just like, he's good, but he's not there yet. And so definitely on the road, a lot more vulnerable than when they're at home. So that does play to our advantage, I think.
Yeah, so I mentioned TCU, kicking TCU out of the lounge. Arizona, I think a win, I would have let them in. I would have finally said, okay, Arizona, you made it. You can't get in the lounge off of a loss. So, but Arizona has proven to at least to be a much better team than I expected. And I think they're more aligned with where you were looking at them. Now, talking about teams that needs to be kicked out the lounge. TCU, take your buddy Iowa State with you. All right, because Iowa State at Colorado. Colorado ain't done nothing all year. Right, but we finally saw the Colorado team that we saw last year. They finally stepped up. Caden Salter finally was able to lead the guys to a big win at home against Iowa State. They had NBA young boy playing in the locker room afterwards, so it was a big win for the Buffs. Beating Iowa State 24-17, and just like that, Iowa State that was 5-0 just 2 weeks ago is now 5-2.
Yeah, I'm disappointed. Disappointed in Iowa State. You're supposed to be one of the teams for me that was supposed to make it hard for the playoff committee to say no to 2 Big 12 teams, and you failed me. Thanks for nothing. Yeah. Why am I surprised?
Well, the problem with Iowa State is that every now and again when you are a team like this, you need your quarterback to save you. Rocco Beck, save us. And I've been waiting Rocco Beck to save this team for 2 years. For 2 years, I've been saying, Rocco Beck, I'm waiting for you to show yourself. And games like today where you really need him to save, he just wasn't able to do it. And Caden Salter came through. To me, this game kind of felt like a game where Colorado, the rest of the Colorado team played up to Iowa State. And it was, okay, the better team with the better quarterback will win this game. And, well, Caden Salter was the team. Colorado had the better quarterback in this game at least. So, Colorado, nice win, 24-17. Talk about teams in the lounge, a team that you've been big on from the very beginning, Cincinnati, Brendan Sorsby. Now, I will say Cincinnati wins again. UCF might just be the second or third worst team in the conference. So Cincinnati did not win as comfortably as I expected them to. But a win is a win, and a two-possession win is a two-possession win. So can't be mad at it.
Yep. Cincinnati rolls on. They, they're a top team in the Big 12 until somebody proves me differently.
Yeah, and now they get the opportunity to have the grasp of we're the second best team in the Big 12, right?
That's right.
It's like a recycling thing of who is going to be able to stake claim to that going forward. But I mean, Cincinnati was there. I mean, they were up to 20-3 to begin the fourth quarter, so it wasn't close by any stretch of the imagination at all. So Cincinnati right now looking pretty good, and because Tech doesn't play Cincinnati this year, Cincinnati's going to be able to kind of work their way through the schedule and have a pretty good schedule going into a possible chance at a Big 12 championship game.
I got some tough ones left on it with Utah and BYU. But, yep, Cincinnati, it's in your destiny. Make it happen.
It's in your destiny. And then last but not least, Jeremy, I don't know if this team deserves to be in the lounge, but by record – and by what they've done, they should be, but I'm going to leave this up to you. The Houston Cougars went into Stillwater, Oklahoma, and beat Oklahoma State like they were supposed to. I'm not going to necessarily say it was like they went in and they did what they were supposed to do. They beat them. They not only did they cover the spread, they abused the spread. They just beat the hell out of Oklahoma State. And they looked like a pretty good team, a team that recovered very nicely from their loss against Texas Tech. And so, do the Houston Cougars after a win 39-17 where Connor Wegman looked pretty good. Dean Connors was back to being himself. Tanner Koziel, Amari Thomas had one of the best games he's had all season. Do they deserve to be in the lounge now?
I don't know, man. The more I've looked at Houston's schedule, they have such a favorable Big 12 schedule for their talent level that it's going to get interesting from here on out, right? They opened up with their fat loss against us, and then bounce it. You lost against the best, you won against the worst. So now we're going to figure out, how you're going to play against the rest. I'm I am a believer in Wegman and this team, though. Their defense especially is not a bad defense by any stretch of the imagination. So much like Utah, Houston's going to continue to surprise people because they took a huge L to Tech. People are going to go, this is a bad team. Like, they're so bad they couldn't play against Texas Tech. And then they'll go out and they'll win, 4 or 5 more games. And then you're like, oh my God, dude, how good is this Houston team? So I think that Houston, I'm going to wait one more week before I let them in the lounge. They're going to play an Arizona team that's a little bit disappointed in how they played BYU. And it's in Houston, but that doesn't matter. So we'll see. If Arizona comes out and, makes it a game and makes it fun and they win, Houston never belonged in the lounge. But Houston may come out and play them like they played Oklahoma State, and then we'll have to have a harder conversation about the Cougs.
I think that's a really good piece there, because as of right now in the lounge, you got Texas Tech. Texas Tech's up at the VIP. But you got BYU, Cincinnati, Utah, and Arizona State and Baylor, right? Those teams are kind of hanging out, and Houston's just there. And Houston, you're next up. But you know who's beside you next up? Arizona. Because like I mentioned, I'm not going to put them in there off of a loss, but they did impress in a loss. They did. Arizona did show what you've been talking about all year. And now you're like, oh, well, Arizona, Houston, hey, y'all play nice now, but we're going to keep y'all both right here and see what happens. I think where it's difficult for a team like Arizona or TCU or K-State for that matter is that you got 2 losses already, and we're just halfway through the season. Yeah. 2 conference losses, and we're just halfway through the season. Like, 4 losses, you're not going to be able to get in the Big 12 championship game with 4 losses. 3 losses, it's unlikely, right? And so, or unlikely or somewhat difficult. So, like, it's tough with 2 losses for you to even say, like, in Iowa State, same thing for you. Tough for 2 losses for you to even really us to say that you're a contender right now, at least until more teams like a Cincinnati or a BYU start potentially losing. It ain't happening at Tech. So get that through your noggins. So yeah, but it'll be interesting to see how this season plays out. Big game upcoming this week in Tempe between Texas Tech and Arizona State, 2 teams in the lounge. Again, Texas in the VIP. Arizona State, though, it's going to be tough, guys. It's going to be tough. You got a big game coming up, and let's face it, you didn't look great in your last one. You simply didn't. And so I think some could argue that you just played a top 3 team in the Big 12 in Utah, and you're about to play the team that beat the hell out of them the very next week. Yeah. So, but it's at home, so we'll see what happens there. Jeremy, anything else you want to say to the people?
2 last quick things. One, on Cam Dickey's second long touchdown run, big helmet sticker to Caleb Douglas, who kept his defensive the DB in front of him and guarded him for like 40 yards all the way down the field for Dickey to make that touchdown. If I was a defensive back, I would have been livid, and he's going to have to watch that on tape. 2, I actually like RG3 on commentary. I think he's fun to listen to. He's got a lot of interesting viewpoints and always has these like references from all over the place. I think.
I bet you loved one of these references. I bet you loved them. Get that guy some milk, huh? That's the one you love the most.
He said, "Man, don't be like that."
I agree. If he just shuts up everywhere else, like that's the thing.
Right.
Just commentary. Like I actually agree with you. Funny enough, at the beginning of the game, when I saw him as a commentator, I'm like, the worst person you know is going to make really great points all throughout this game. Because he just sucks everywhere else. But like in color commentary, he's awesome. And there's some guys that are just awesome. Right? Like it's like he's great in the NFL side. I love Tony Romo. Greg Olsen is the best when it comes to color commentary on the NFL side. For sure. On the college side, you know who's also really great on TNT? And I'm sure TNT is now ecstatic they don't have to do any more Oklahoma State games. Mike Golick Jr. Love Mike Golick Jr. Yeah, Mike Golick Jr. on TNT. He's pretty awesome. Andre Ware, shout out to Dickinson, Texas. He's pretty good on color commentary. So yeah, no, I agree. I just would like him to stay there and not do other things. Hopefully he doesn't get hired by any other national service to do. I don't know. No more opinions. All right. So with that being said, Texas Tech 6-0 on the game, but we have, I think the best thing that can be stated is we became bowl eligible and nobody in that building really cared. We all have our sights on something greater, which is a Big 12 championship, and it is doing something great in the college football playoff as well. So, and I think we have, in my opinion, 4 big tests this year. I'm sorry, Houston. Sorry, Kansas. Y'all were not part of the 4 big tests. We already passed test 1 in Utah. Test 2 is coming up at Arizona State. And so let's go ahead and win that one. All right. So for the people's champ that is Jeremy Gillen, this is your boy, I'll Be Sure, and you've been listening to the Tortillas and Takes podcast, part of the 1012 Network. As always, stay right, people.